My name is Tommy. I'm a tutor at THC Study Center. Today we'll be talking about TOEFL speaking section. As we all know, TOEFL is a test of English as a foreign language. And under TOEFL we have about 4 sections. We have the reading, we have the listening, the speaking, and the writing. But for the purpose of today's class, we'll be looking at TOEFL speaking section. Now, after the listening exam, you'll be given a break of 10 minutes, after which you will come back for your speaking section. So during the exam, you're expected to put on your headphones, and then the microphone with which you will speak with will be connected to your headphones. So I'm advising that you ensure that your headphones is on all through your exam. Ensure that it is on. Ensure that it is on. So as of August 1st, 2019, a slight change was made pertaining to the TOEFL speaking section, which was as regarding the task. Now, as of that time, prior to August 1st, 2019, TOEFL speaking section has always had 6 tasks. But as at 1st of August 2019, a slight change has been effected. We now have 4 tasks. Now, we're going to be working strictly with the new change and improvement that we have under this section. We have 4 sections. We have 4 tasks, rather. The first task is an independent task, which can either be descriptive, you can be asked to give a description or make your opinion known. Now, the second task is reading and conversation integrated. Reading and conversation integrated. The third task is conversation and opinion integrated. Then the last task, which is the 4th task, is strictly on lectures. You have to summarize a particular lecture. Now, for the first task, which is the independent task, under this, it can either be descriptive or you are asked to give an opinion, to stand for or against, to agree or disagree. Now, under the description type, part, you have 2 question types. The first question involves the importance of a personal noun, where you are asked to describe maybe the best place to you, or describe a place of experience to you, somewhere you've been to and you love. The second question type involves ideal qualities of a noun, where you're asked to talk about the ideal qualities of a good parent. Although the second part does not mention, the second question type does not mention you or your experience, but both of them you can still bring your details based on your personal experience. You can still use words that are based on your personal experience. Now, for your opinion, you are asked to stand for or against. You are asked to stand for or against that particular topic. So the second task, you have your reading and conversation integrated. Under this, you're to read a particular passage, and then you're to listen to a conversation. What are you going to be reading about? You're going to be reading about a school notice. Okay. So the second task, you have your reading and conversation integrated. Under this, you're to read a particular passage, and then you're to listen to a conversation. What are you going to be reading about? You're going to be reading about a school notice. And then you listen to a conversation between 2 students talking about the school notice, and then you have to summarize about the notice and 1 student's reaction to the notice. Now, the third task is conversation and opinion integrated. Under this task, you have to listen to a conversation between 2 students about 1 student's campus-related problem or difficulties. In order to answer this question, you have to summarize the problem, the final decision, or you have to summarize the problem, the difficulty, or the final decision, and also you have to give your own opinion about the decision that student has made. Now, for the last task, which is the fourth task, it's strictly a lecture. All you have to do is summarize that lecture in the appropriate time. Summarize the lecture. Now, I'm going to be giving a number of strategies that can help you improve your TOEFL speaking score. They are just general strategies that you can use. Number one, be prepared to speak from note, not transcript. Be prepared to speak from your note, not transcript. Be prepared to speak from your note, not transcript. Now, what does this mean? It means that you have limited time to answer your question. You have limited time to speak. So all you need to do is, while you're reading or listening to the conversation or lecture, all you need to do is to write notes in fragments using symbols, initials, or whatever you think can enable you to remember when you need to refer to them. So be prepared to speak from your notes and not transcript. You're not writing everything that you have heard or read. All you need to do is just write fragments of notes that can help you infer back to appropriate information when you need them. Secondly, you need to organize your thoughts. Organize your thoughts as a paragraph, not a written essay. You know, the speaking section is actually different from the writing section because you are speaking, not writing. But also you need to organize your thoughts. You need to organize your thoughts. You need to organize your thoughts in paragraphs. Now, how does this come to play in your speaking section? While writing an essay, we know that our essay includes the introduction, the body of the essay, and then the conclusion. The same thing as your speaking section. If you're going to be speaking or answering your questions, you need to organize your thought. How do you organize your thought? You know that, okay, I'm talking about first my introduction, and then secondly, I'm talking about the body of my description. You're going to be talking about the body, and then lastly, you're going to be giving a conclusion. And thirdly, you need to use familiar vocabulary. Don't try to be a professor using long words or unnecessary vocabularies. Just ensure that you're using a familiar but correct vocabulary for your answers. Ensure to use a familiar vocabulary. The same vocabulary you use in your day-to-day conversation with people, in a friendly but serious conversation, is the same thing that you should employ while answering your questions. Don't try to be a professor. Don't use long words because you do not have enough time to beat around the bush. Also, you need to use short and simple sentence structure. Short and simple sentence structure. Avoid using unnecessary clauses in your answer. Avoid them. They are only going to elongate the period of time at which you have to speak. And going by the rules of the exam, you do not have enough time to speak. So use simple and short sentence structure. Okay, you also need to vary your vocabulary and sentence structure. How do you vary your vocabulary and sentence structure? You need to avoid redundancy. Now, what do I mean by avoiding redundancy? It simply means that avoid repetition. Unnecessary repetition is not necessary. Using words or clauses that mean the same thing in the same paragraph is not needed. So avoid unnecessary repetition. That is why you need to be versatile, knowing a lot of vocabularies that you can use that would aid the effectiveness of your speaking. So have a number of vocabulary that you can use while answering your question. Also, use coercive devices effectively. Now, the coercive devices are what makes your speaking interesting and attractive. You know, when the listener is listening, it makes the person understand, and then the person doesn't get boring of your answers. It makes the person understand you very well. Now, what are coercive devices? You have your personal pronouns, which includes his, has, I, you. You have your demonstrative pronouns, which includes that, this, those. These are examples of personal and demonstrative pronouns. You also have articles. You have articles A. Okay, let's write. You have articles A. Your articles. You have A and the. A, and the. Okay, you also have your transition words. What are your transition words? Transition words. You have although, however, in addition, and so on and so forth. So these are examples you can use when you want to connect your paragraphs together or you're speaking together. Although it makes your work smooth, it makes it connect the whole idea and doesn't make your work look separated from each other. So these are transition words that you can use. You also have word formations like persuade, persuasive, persuasiveness. So these are examples of coercive devices. Ensure to use them appropriately. Now be concise. Go straight to the point. You don't need to beat around the bush. Be concise in giving your answer. Be concise in speaking. Don't waste time. Don't add information that are not necessary to your answers. Be concise. Go straight to the point. Now, if you have to use idioms, use them moderately. If you have to use idioms, use them moderately, but no slangs. No slangs. It's a serious conversation. No slangs. If you have to use your idioms, you use them moderately. Also, you need to speak at an even pace and reading. Speak at an even pace and reading. Be consistent with the way you speak. Be consistent with the way you speak. Don't be fast answering this question and then reduce your pace answering the other question. Ensure that you are speaking at an even pace. Be consistent. And then lastly, on the tips, I would like to say that make sure that you're speaking naturally and conversationally. Ensure that you're not speaking like you're being programmed or you're a robot. Ensure to speak naturally, like you're on your normal routine of conversation with people around you. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to be giving a very brief example on how you can effectively answer your question. I'd like you to follow me. A very brief example. Now, you have just 45 seconds to answer the questions. That's the total of 20 minutes. Total of 20 minutes for your speaking section. So you have 45 seconds rather. So I'll advise that you start with your introduction. Start with your introduction. Now, what does your introduction entail? You restate the question. You restate your question. Number 2, you state your opinion. Number 3, you state your opinion. You give personal examples. You know, I said earlier that you need to organize your thoughts. This will help you answer your questions effectively and fast enough. You don't have to start thinking about what to say or what to do. As long as you have organized your thoughts, it makes it easier for you to know how to answer your questions very fast. So you restate the question, you state your opinion. Why are you standing for or against that particular statement? Then you give a personal example. Like for instance, I remember when I was, you understand, a personal example that your listener can relate to. Then you come to the body. Sorry. You come to the body. And now in the body, you state the second reason for your opinion. Here you're stating, after stating your opinion, you give your first reason, and then you give personal examples. Now here you state the second reason for your opinion, and then you also give examples. You also give examples. Sorry about the marker, please. You also give examples. Then lastly, you conclude. Your conclusion. And how do you go about your conclusion? How do you go about your conclusion? You restate the question. I'm very sorry about the marker. You restate the question. And then you also restate your opinion. You restate your question, and then you restate the opinion. Now, when you want to conclude, you use words like in conclusion, to sum up. So your conclusion is just to sum up everything that you have been saying. You don't need to start all over again and begin to explain what you have already explained. Avoid repetition, avoid unnecessary repetition. So your conclusion you restate the question, and you restate your opinion. So I believe that this is a guideline that you can actually use when you're answering your question to ensure that your thoughts are organized. You have your introduction, you have the body, and then you have the conclusion. You have the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. Your introduction includes restating your question, stating your opinion, and then you give the first reason why you think that you want to go for that opinion. Why are you going for that particular opinion? Then you give personal examples. Then the body, you state your second reason for that opinion. State the second reason for that opinion, and then you also give personal examples. Ensure that you develop a well and elaborately developed an elaborately developed sentence while you're speaking. Ensure that it is elaborate enough, concise and elaborate enough to make sure that the listener understands what you're trying to say. Then before we come to the end of this class, I would like to advise that before you go for your speaking test, ensure to take a lot of practice at home. Make sure that you practice every day at home so as to get familiar with the rules of the game, the do's and don'ts, so that you don't just go and then fail the exam. So I'd like to give us a list of things to check out for when you're doing your speaking test at home. A list of things that can guide you so as to know how effective you've become over time. So we can tag this session checklist. As you do the test on your own at home, make sure that you follow this list to know how effective you've become. Number 1, did I speak for 42 or 45 seconds? Usually at TAC Study Center, we would advise our students to use below the standard time for their exam when they are practicing. This will enable them to be fast and get used to the time. Now, so we advise you to use less than 45 seconds. Make sure that whenever you're practicing, practice for less than 45 seconds. Speak and answer your questions for less than 45 seconds. Now, secondly, was my introduction 12 seconds or less? Was my introduction 12 seconds or less? Ensure to do a short but concise introduction. Organize everything that you're going to be saying. Whenever you're practicing at home, organize everything. So make sure that your introduction is 12 seconds or less. Now, number 3, did I do a short conclusion? Did I do a short but great conclusion? You may be wondering, why do I need a conclusion if it's not an essay? That is why we are asked to organize your thoughts in paragraphs, which include the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So you have to do a short but concise and great conclusion. Make sure that your conclusion is not too long. A concise, short, but great conclusion. Then also, did I use my coercive devices appropriately? This is also another thing you need to check out for when you're doing your test at home. Did I use my coercive devices appropriately? And also, so number 5, you have your transition words. Did I use my transition words when necessary? Did I use my transition words appropriately? And also, you need to check for number 6. Did I speak at an even pace? Did I speak at an even pace? We talked about it earlier. Ensure that you're talking, your mode of speaking or reading is consistent. Avoid fluctuation. Ensure that it is consistent. Then lastly, did I speak naturally and conversationally? Naturally, like you're in a natural conversation with your friends, a natural but serious conversation with your friends, and then you're not talking as if you're being programmed or as a robot. Ensure to always check out for these things when you are speaking. When you're taking your speaking test at home, ensure to always check out for these things. These are things that can guide you on how to become more effective in answering your TOEFL speaking section questions. So this will bring us to the end of our class today. Please hit the subscribe button and drop your comments below. I wish you a very great success in your exam. Thank you.